Welcome to Watches with Dennis, and today I have a Q&A video for you. I do these from time to time by posting a Q&A image on YouTube, and when you see that, you can list your questions below that image. Several viewers submitted some topics, so let's go ahead and get started. Underachieving Watch Collector asked, if you could be the CEO of a watch company that you feel has lost its way, which company or companies would you choose and why? This is an interesting one. I've got two for you, Jaeger-LeCoultre, aka JLC, and Breguet, but I have them in here for different reasons. JLC is more straightforward. I think the Richemont group has driven the pricing up too high for what these watches entail, so my top reform would be putting things back in line there. Watches with new movement technology could be priced higher than the old watches, but watches that are doing the same old thing with a new dial but using the same old engine really should be repositioned lower in their MSRP. The second priority at JLC would be to oversee a significant update to the Polaris line. I think it's JLC's best chance at having a successful sports watch, and it needs improvement though. It's not broadly popular. And then the third thing I'd like to see with JLC, which isn't a huge priority, would be more dial variety. I'd say color variety in particular when we were talking about the Master Ultra Thin line. Breguet overall, I think, is a much harder fix. I believe the Swatch Group is overall mismanaging the brand itself. Given the amount of hand craftsmanship that we see involved in so many of Breguet's watches, it really should be a far better known brand, and particularly in the realm of dress watches, I think Breguet really should be talked about alongside the various Holy Trinity brands as a viable option. So, day one, the first effort is to start a new robust advertising and promotional campaign to better expose people to what Breguet has to offer. We need to broaden the pool of potential buyers that are looking at the brand. Second, the Marine line needs a complete redesign. The current aesthetic is completely inferior, I believe, in every way to the prior generation. I'm not saying go back to the prior generation, but I do think at the very least they should go back to getting a big date listed on those watches. But overall, it really needs a better look. I think it's just way too polarizing to work. The third change, which is also related to polarizing, would be the Type 20. Yes, it did just get a redesign, but as I just noted, it's been a polarizing one. Some people like it, a lot of people do not. The date window would be a key case in point. I wouldn't eliminate the current models of the Type 20, whereas I would with the Breguet Marine line, but I just think it needs to be expanded to provide more design choices for those that love the classic version but want an updated model. The next question comes from Watches For You, who asked for my perspective on 2025 and the state of the watch market, and also mentioned learning about a dealer boycott over Chrono 24's fees. I don't know anything about the Chrono 24 boycott. That was the first I've heard of it. As a private seller who has used Chrono 24 and eBay to sell watches, I have greatly preferred Chrono 24 because the fees are significantly lower than what I face over on eBay. However, I do know that being a dealer on Chrono 24 has a different system. It works completely differently than it does for private parties. I'd also say an individual like me has a lot fewer options to be able to sell watches, whereas a business has other avenues, namely they often operate their own storefront. The watch market in 2025, I think, will be lower in sales volume than 2024, but I don't think it's going to be by a shocking amount. I think this will be mostly driven by the United States as the incoming presidential administration is expressing a plan to institute across-the-board tariffs. They were a fan of tariffs in the prior time they were in office, and I think this will impact the price of watches in the United States, given almost all of them are imported. Separate from that direct impact, any economic disruptions in general will tend to cause people to be more cautious with spending their money. So moving away from the economics of it all, I think that we're going to see 2025 is going to be very conservative, much like we saw with the 2024 releases from the big brands. If you want some specifics for 2025, I'm going to say I think Omega might finally revamp the Planet Ocean. It is extremely long in the tooth at this stage. Rolex, I think, will drop something illogical, and by that illogical, I mean they're going to take some professional watch and do it up in yellow gold, and everyone will ask, why is this thing, and why is it this much money? I also think Rolex will probably have some sort of new, relatively dull colorway for the Submariner. On JLC, since we just talked about them earlier, I do think they will push out at least 2 new Reversos using the same old movements that they always use, and Seiko is going to have at least 2 limited edition models per month. The next question comes in from Nicholas V, who asked, if you could have one of the major brands release a specific watch, either from their back catalog, modify an existing one, or just something totally different, what would it be? Well, not repeating anything I proposed earlier for Breguet or JLC to redesign to help their brands, I would say I really wish Audemars Piguet would restore the Jewel Audemars line in general. It plays to my preference on dress watches, and AP just doesn't seem to really do dress watches anymore. I don't know what they call the Code 1159, but I'm going to say it's not a true dress watch line. If you want a specific model example, I'll go ahead and cite the Jewel Audemars Extra Thin 15180OR. Specifically, that's the 41mm version with a gloss black dial, a rose gold case, leaf hands, and all of that under 7mm thick. And the last set of questions, and it's a set of them, comes in from Jill Bolt, who actually asked 4 questions, and I'm going to go ahead and cover all of them. Question 1, thoughts on deployant clasp and pin buckle? My answer on that is I prefer the simplicity of the pin buckle overall. I think it mostly just comes down to the fact that that tends to keep the thickness down on the strap, but the difference isn't significant to me. I would never stop myself from buying a deployant clasp watch if I had to have it on a deployant clasp. Question 2, what watch YouTube creators do you routinely watch? And my answer there is difficult. I subscribe to a lot of them, but I also don't have any that I refuse to ever miss a show from. So it's a very ad hoc sort of consumption. In terms of live streams, my 2 favorites are I like the 1916 Company because it has Tim Masso's Monday show, which I do enjoy catching. And then Casual Watch Reviews, which was the one I was just recently on, they air on Sundays. Both of those I normally have to watch recorded. I can't usually watch the live streams, but more often than not, I will go and watch them because I think they both cover interesting topics in very different ways. Casual Watch Reviews is a very panel-driven show. And Tim Masso is a fountain of knowledge on watches, and you get to see a lot of really interesting pieces highlighted on his channel. In terms of pre-recorded content, my main ones that I like to watch are Pocket Watch Time, ID Guy, Design Atelier, Federico Talks Watches, This Watch, That Watch, and My Watch Journey. There are others, of course, but those are the main ones that come to mind when I was putting this video together. The third question from Joel Vault is, what is your least favorite Omega? That's a tough one for me to answer. I actually don't, despite what rants I might have on my live streams, typically rank watches that far down. I normally have my favorites, and I don't usually go all the way down and decide what was like the worst thing that's in the catalog. So taking a quick look, which is difficult given the number of SKUs, through Omega's current catalog, if you want to know what I think is the ugliest watch they make, I'd say it's the Seamaster Regatta. I think from the way it blends the anti-digi elements to all of the buttons all over the case to the handset itself. I think none of it works. If you want to know my least favorite line of watches, it's the Moonwatch selection under the Speedmaster. I can't say the entire Speedmaster collection. I do like the look of a number of the non-Moonwatch models, but none of them high enough that I would ever consider really buying them, at least not at this stage. But the Moonwatch line itself just fails to inspire me. It's not ugly or anything. I really just don't care about them. And finally, the fourth question, is there a type of leather strap you prefer? Calf, gator, or something else? I think for dress watches, the gator straps tend to look the best, and they also hold up really, really well. So I do have a preference on dress watches to have gator straps because of those qualities. However, I do have to note that often when I have a new gator strap, it goes through an uncomfortable break-in period, which early on made me not like gator all that much. You have to break them in. Calf has been the most comfortable regardless of how worn it is. And I'd say the best strap I ever experienced was actually some of those Polo Bootmaker, I forget the name of it, but JLC. They have some really nice calf straps for the Reversos that they offer up. So overall, I would tell you calf is my favorite type of strap. Another advantage to cattle leather straps like calf or any other even cheaper cut would be that you tend to find them in a lot of different colors that can look really good with a variety of watches. I haven't tried a lot of other leathers in particular. Ostrich is okay if you want something that has a unique texture that stands out from any other style. So that would be the other one I would suggest. I've had some good experiences with ostrich, but not enough that I would insist that you really should try it. It's just if you're looking for something with a visual texture change up, I'd say definitely take a look at ostrich and consider it. That is it for this video. Thank you everyone who took the time to submit questions. I really do appreciate it. And thank you to all of you who took the time to watch this. I will talk to you all on the next one. Take care, everybody.